2000. Start by reading the Open Public Meetings Act.
Adequate notice of the meeting of the Pinelands Commission will give compliance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act by providing notice to all municipal and county clerks of the Pinelands area and the Secretary of State on December 23rd, 2015, within the Commission's officially designated newspapers on December 23rd, 2015, and by posting a copy on the bulletin board in the Commission's office.
Good morning. Commissioner Ashman? Commissioner Avery?
Here.
Commissioner Barr?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Chilla?
Here.
Commissioner DeBello? Commissioner Galetta?
Here.
Commissioner Generone? Commissioner Lloyd?
Here.
Commissioner Lobauer?
Here.
Commissioner McGlinchey? Commissioner Prickett?
Here.
Commissioner King? Commissioner Roman Green? Shorter Commissioner Witt? Chairman Earl?
Here. Let's stand for the pledge, please.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start with the regular agenda, we have a couple side items. First of which, the happy and sad day, we need to welcome a new commissioner, saying goodbye to another. Once to start, we have a resolution for Commissioner Fran Witt, who resigned from his position effective December 31st, 2015. Before I get to the resolution, I did want to say that I've been here a little over 4 years. Fran was like the grandfather that he had. He didn't say much. When he did, it spoke volumes. It was truly an honor to serve with you on this commission. I wanted to thank you again. That being said, I'll read the resolution. The title of the resolution is expressing the Commission's appreciation to Fran Witt for his service as a member from February 13, 2004 and December 31st, 2015. Whereas Fran Witt served as Bluffton County representative on the Pinelands Commission from February 13, 2004 until December 31st, 2015. And whereas Mr. Witt served on the Commission's Personnel and Budget Committee, Public and Governmental Programs Committee, and Audit Committee. And whereas Mr. Witt brought a wealth of experience to the Commission, having served as the Mayor of the Borough of National Park for 16 years, as well as having served as the Vice President of the New Jersey League of Municipalities, and having served on the Board of Bluffton County Utilities Authority, Gloucester County Solid Waste Authority. And whereas during his tenure, the Pinelands Commission adopted 18 amendments to the Pinelands Comprehensive Management Plan, permanently preserved more than 7,700 acres in the Pinelands, and completed its 4th in-depth review of the CMP. And whereas Commissioner members are unpaid volunteers, and Mr. Witt devoted hundreds of hours of his time as Commissioner and logged more than 10,000 miles traveling to and from Commission meetings. And whereas members of the Commission want to recognize Mr. Witt's significant efforts to advise the agency's mission to preserve, protect, and enhance the resources of the Pinelands. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Pinelands Commission assembled at the Richard J. Sullivan Center for Environmental Policy and Education on this 12th day of February 2016 hereby express our appreciation to Fran Witt for his commitment to the Pinelands and his service as a Commission member between February 13, 2004 and December 31st, 2015.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the adoption of that resolution.
All in favor? Any comments before we take the roll call?
Well, I just want to say, Fran, it's been a pleasure and honor to work with you. We'll miss you, but I wish you well, and I'm sure all of us wish you well in your future endeavors. Thank you.
And I'd like to add that the public's very familiar with the long time that Fran has put in here and the work that he's done here, but they haven't seen his work on the audit committee, which is a special kind of suffering that we shared together. And I want to pay particular tribute to Fran for his work there. In addition to all of the other work that everyone is familiar with, you're going to be sorely missed there, Fran. We really appreciate your insights into the workings of somehow we'll have to muddle on through it now. But thank you for that.
I would say that we want to share some of some, almost, I've known the water committee very long, but it was a pleasure, Jim, look, Fran, you look, a little bit of humor to that committee when it was well needed. And came up with some good, real good suggestions before his departure, and again, I want to thank you as a neighboring commissioner, Walsham County, Canyon County, it's a pleasure. I know Fran and another life as well, so it was a pleasure.
I know he's certainly going to be missed on the page committee. Personnel and budget committee, his insights into a whole bunch of different things. Most about. And so we hope you come back and continue to advise us every now and then.
Fran, I'd like to echo the compliments that you've received. It's been a pleasure to serve with you. And I'm proof that you're not safe yet. You can always come back. But it was a pleasure to serve with you both times that I've been on the division now. And good luck for sales. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman. Fran, we've been friends quite a long time, and I know you enjoyed your tenure on this commission and you served the citizens of Jersey well. For to continue our friendship and using you as a mentor, helping me as I try to fill these shoes. So, thank you for your service and representing Ulster County.
Fran will miss you.
I'd just like to add, of course, everybody knows I came here under some pretty controversial circumstances. And on the first day when I got here, Fran was the first to welcome me and basically say, "You're here now, and we're here to support you." And his words of wisdom and what kept me up to speed truly meant a lot. And everybody here was welcoming, and I think Frank kind of led the way in that regard, and I appreciate that. So you will be missed.
Thank you, Fran. Your guidance and your kindness.
Mr. Chair, one more thing, Fran, you were my favorite commissioner. I'm confident, and I'm going to miss you. I really am, and thank you for your service.
That's a tough one to follow, but Fran, I came on the commission really the same time as Sean and Darcy a couple years ago, and you were the first person I met, you were the person I had the privilege of sitting next to for those years that we served together. And I have to tell you, your guidance has meant the world to me. You truly have been a mentor to me, and I certainly have learned what I've learned most of the prison, and I look forward to still being a friend in the future, and hopefully we keep in touch. And I'll probably reach out to you some of your knowledge over the next couple of years. So, but I wish you the very best, and enjoy you yourself and your family. Thank you.
I have to ask someone to pick up some of the slack of Fran, because if there's one thing Jess Noble and I appreciate about Fran, it's his cologne. I love that cologne. I know I can smell it in the room now, it just makes the meetings better and happier, so someone is going to have to get with Fran, get some of this cologne, so we can still have that.
What kind of clothes?
You get that from Fran, or maybe a secret. And whatever I've said to any of the staff, even in addition to staff who work in the room at commission meetings, how sorry I was that you were leaving because I liked you so much. Each and every one of them said the same thing. We did too. So from staff's perspective, you will be very, very missed. Thank you.
All right, we could have we don't need to do this one by one, right? All in favor of this resolution?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you again. Congratulations. Fran, Jess has a copy of the resolution if you'd like to take it with you. That way you don't have to sit through an entire other meeting if you don't want to. All right, moving on. Next, we're going to be looking for swearing in our newest commissioner, Joe Chilla. And some comments were prepared for me, so I'm going to do my best to read through these, but I'm sure this does not describe everything, but a snippet of Mr. Chiller's experience. Joe is currently serving his 4th term on the Gloucester County Board of Children Freeholders, and his 5th year as Deputy Director. Mr. Chiller resides in Woolwich Township, where he served as mayor from 2003 to 2010. During that time, he instituted smart growth principles and development and focused on preserving farmland and open space. Mr. Chiller graduated from Fallsborough High School from Gloucester County Institute of Technology. He's a member of the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, AFL-CIO, and he serves on the Gloucester County School of Board Estimates, the Advisory Board for the Gloucester County Veterans Cemetery, and the Board of the United Way of Gloucester Fund. Mr. Chiller serves as the President of Southern New Jersey Freeholders Association in 2015 and was named Freeholder of the Year by New Jersey Conference of Mayors. Swearing in.
I, Giuseppe Chilla, do solemnly swear
I, Giuseppe Chillo, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of the office of Pinelands Commissioner
all the duties of the office of Pinelands Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
One more item before we get to the regular agenda. I had mentioned, I made some remarks at the Policy and Implementation Committee, but I wanted to take a moment and just thank Commissioner Mark Lobauer for his time over the last 4.5 years as chairman. I know, and I'm learning, it's can sometimes be a thankless position. There are definitely some challenges that go along with it. I think he did an admirable job. I know that a lot of folks realize that everybody up here is a volunteer, and there's a lot of time that goes into it, and we put a lot of time into this. Just wanted to reach out and thank you one more time.
Thank you very much, Jim, and much good luck.
And thank you, Mark, for your leadership.
Moving forward on the agenda, everybody has received the minutes from the January 15th meeting. We have a motion to approve. Second motion. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes?
Minutes mention a letter to be sorry.
That's okay. DEP? Warren, maybe?
I believe we've got the notarized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not true. The only other question I had, and I don't know whether it was minutes or has the Ag Committee, Ag Committee scheduled a meeting to talk about the low intensity use of?
Not at this time. I've been speaking to Susan, and we're hoping to get something within the next month or so.
Coming up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the minutes? All in favor of the adoption of the minutes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Same.
I'll also abstain.
Robert says not.
All right, committee chairs and executive directors reports. We'll start with the Policy and Implementation Committee.
Thank you, Chairman. The Policy and Implementation Committee met on January 29th and adopted minutes of our previous meeting, which is October 30th. Center. We received an extensive briefing on the current status of affordable housing, how that may impact communities in the Pinelands, and I think we can anticipate that there's going to be some development pressure rising for the development of new housing throughout the Pinelands, and there are contradictory approaches as to what the actual burden of affordable housing counts is per town, different ways of viewing it. This is going to pose some interesting issues for us in the year ahead. We also received an update on the plan review recommendations from staff, the status of a variety of issues, which may lead to rulemaking. The policy implementation committee doesn't have any particular recommendation to make today, but in future meetings we expect to have some draft rules for the Commission's consideration, including, we had our ongoing discussion on climate change policy, an issue that is limited to us, and we expect to have a draft rule for the Commission to consider. And finally, we received a lot of public comment. A lot of the public came out to talk to us about the DEP's motorized access plan for Wharton State Forest, and their efforts to restrict and then to withdraw that plan and what that means for us. And we can expect that the B&I committee will be making recommendations to the Commission on this issue as well today, but soon. And that was the extent of it.
Any questions for Commissioner Lloyd?
I'd just like to say, Commissioner Mulbauer, you had invited me to participate in discussion on the motorized vehicle issue. My schedule did not allow me to attend, but I'm very interested in so going forward.
I'm sure you'll have another opportunity, Commissioner. It's going to be a long discussion, I think.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Avery?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We, the Personnel and Budget Committee met on February 2nd this year. We adopted the minutes from our previous meeting of November 17th, 2015. The committee members were again presented a PowerPoint presentation by Paul on the request for proposals for the Pinelands Visitor Center. Presentation really focused on the proposal process and the review by staff and committee of that, of the proposals received. The committee members have recommended the commission approval of the resolution to authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for the fabrication and installation of exhibits at the Sullivan Center here for environmental policy and education. And we're recommending the award go to a joint venture of Drill and Split Rock Studios in the amount of $368,849, and that resolution is in your packets. I particularly like opening the door to a timber rattlesnake. I thought that was an excellent idea. Surprise people. Some applicants might be asked to open the door. We, again, with the executive director and Jessica Lynch of staff, reviewed the check registers, electronic disbursements, and application fees. Our application fees are on course for the projection of our budget, so that's good. We had an update from Michelle Russell on employee actions. We had a brief discussion led by Commissioner McQuinchie, again, of some of Commissioner Witt's concerns about the audit committee and some of his recommendations. I think we'll be continuing to talk about it. I mentioned that in my last report as well. Jerry Letman didn't want to say anything, so there was no public comment, and we appreciate Jerry very much. Any questions?
Are there any other committee meetings over the last month?
Since we had some committee meetings last month, we spent lots of time on that. I just want to remind, the short course is March 12th at Stockton. How was the morning?
Well, very well.
We're doing well, so people should remember to sign up for March 12th.
designed it fairly high for the Pinelands to absorb. They're over, some of them are over 20% of the future building, so that's what we're going to be sharing. Staff is working on a number of plans to do items, so you'll be seeing those this spring.
Sarah, you say something about sharing reports. Is there, what's an update? Is there an update on what happened with staff since our last meeting?
We have a draft letter where it's packaging the data, some of the data that we showed to you, Stevie would, I think, on the draft letter out is packaging some of the data, figuring out anything else we might want to send, suggesting maybe some of the material, monitoring the report, the municipal fact sheets might be useful for the folks to see, summarizes things in the single page. So that's where we are. We've heard from the reports of extended the protection for the municipalities by 3, 4, 5 months while they continue to do the plan. That's the only one I can remember.
We'll see a copy of that letter before it goes.
What, do you know, maybe it's not a commission's concern, but if there's build out in a municipality, how is it all affected by build out? Is there mechanisms that are in place that allow houses perhaps to be purchased and turned into co-housing or?
Sure, I mean, the numbers we've been looking at are future houses, so that you pointed out to me that in some municipalities, the inventory of vacant houses is not to be utilized. And I think the towns are doing that, and the issue is always money. We have to purchase the houses, we have to go to the seller, purchase the houses, renovate them, and then get them in the hands of people who can afford them. That's one of the mechanisms we're certainly looking at.
So call continues even if there's build out in a community? Right.
The code doesn't exist at the moment, but the prior mechanisms in the round 2 rules, which were not overturned, still exist. So things like rehab, which we're talking about, credit board or affordable housing obligation is still available. Continuation of rent control on units where rent control is about to expire is another mechanism that's available. So all of the old tools in the toolbox are still available. Most of the numbers that we're dealing with now is how many new units will need to be constructed, how much credit do you get for the old units or the rehabs that you do. That all comes together in terms of meeting or municipalities figuring out how it's going to meet its municipal needs. So fair share housing obligation.
The other big factor is many of our communities are split inside the Pinelands and outside the Pinelands, and there may be opportunities outside the Pinelands that we're unaware of. So almost every municipality has been into a case study. It's going to take time and effort to figure out what to do. My municipality.
Larry, are you, there are 3 sets of numbers out there.
At least.
But I mean 3 that I think probably should be looked at least. How do we deal with that? I mean, the court is having trouble dealing with that. How about you?
We're not offering a recommendation. What we're doing is showing what the numbers say, what the numbers in the
But are you going to do all 3 sets?
No, we'll show our numbers, the Pinelands build out, and compare them to the 3 sets of numbers. And so, as I said, it gets really complicated because it's split communities and where they have sewer service inside, outside. Almost every town is a different case. But what we wanted to do is make sure that the courts are aware of our situation. We have certified towns. We have zoning that is consistent with the Pinelands Comprehensive Management Plan, consistent with the environmental factors and everything else. So that's when we want to make sure that those are taken into account when we look at it. And we have 12 towns that are totally within the Pinelands, and some of those have numbers assigned to them that seem a little high to us. They don't have sewer service, and it isn't clear outside those numbers.
Commissioner, I just to follow up on Larry's response. Yes, there are numbers that are out there that were prepared by council. There are the numbers that were prepared by Trinity on behalf of Fair Share Housing Council. But each court is assigning a numbers master. So what you have occurring in the vicinges right now is you have an expert, a planner on behalf of the municipality that is working on the housing development's fair share plan and its housing element. You have these other numbers that are out there based on, for example, fair share housing as a participant. And then you have the court who's using special masters, and in many cases, they're using the same planners, which is now what's causing this time delay. With regard to Monica, Richard Brennan, who is the planner for Ocean County, is the numbers master for Ocean County, and Judge Coney is also the numbers master for, I think that's Judge Bookbinder. And so it's starting now to weigh down the system. In terms of the commission's role, as Admiral 2 stated, the Supreme Court in Admiral 2 stated, the municipal obligation is not only to meet its fair share housing obligation, but that fair share housing obligation is not intended to diminish environmental protections. So municipalities within the Pinelands have to determine how are they going to meet their obligation, but also how are they going to continue to comply with the requirements of the comprehensive management plan. Our role, as I see it anyway, is to inform the court as to what the comprehensive management plan requires, so that when the court is looking at the municipality's plan to meet its affordable housing obligation, that it's doing it in such a way that is consistent with the comprehensive management plan. So it's not so much what the numbers are. At the end of the day, the court will figure out what the appropriate number is in order to meet the constitutional obligation. It's that whatever the municipality is considering in terms of planning for that number, that it's consistent with law across the board, including the requirements of the
We met with some communities having a meeting on Tuesday, and coming up with large towns to do exactly that. They're looking at their assigned numbers and trying to figure out what tools can they use to do that. That's where we come in. How does it fit with the certified zoning, does it need to change, can it change for the parameters, and that's what we're going to have to do. We want to make sure everybody's working, the understanding of where we are, we start from, rather than starting from zero.
So do you suppose that the court will make the, I guess, assumption in the mind that we are the master plan?
We hope so. We hope so. They will,
I mean, that would be the approach that would.
the court should consider the plan, help the municipality use its toolbox, so that at the end of the day, when it meets its obligation or plans to meet its obligation, it does so in a way that is consistent with all of the obligations that are on the municipality.
This is much talk about master planners, and I mean, anything, the court really doesn't want to be the planner. And that they might appoint somebody, wouldn't it be nice if they appointed the finance committee in the fund? Just a comment.
Well, the letter that we're drafting and going to we're going to be sending to the different courts to notify them, on notice that they remember us in your efforts.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, and offering to help them, too. Make sure they know that we're a
Tell
resource
them
that
what
they
we
can.
can do.
Yeah.
Well, we've always been a resource, and that was part of the presentation, where it's just when the courts turn to staffs or their assistants in terms of
From what I heard, they're looking at retired judges, and they're going to be getting their own planners, and they're so far behind the 8 ball in this. But I don't think it's going to be after Superior Court judges. There's too much other dockets.
It's a very complicated system. There are 15 judges assigned, or 15 vicenages, primary judges plus backups. With regard to the Pinelands, there are 5 vicenages, because Atlantic and Cape May are combined under one judge, Judge Johnson. And then the Camden, Salem, and Gloucester are all combined under one judge. There's no indication that as they move forward in this effort that they're actually speaking to each other. It's a very convoluted process where, as the slide said, everything old is new again. For those of you who were at the K9 meeting, we are back to where things were prior to that law in terms of the process.
20 years gone.
So the letter that we're planning to send, we're sending to all the vicinages, and, I mean, are we planning to file an amicus brief? I mean, it's very unusual in my experience for anybody to write a letter to the court. There's certain formal ways that you get involved in the court, and a letter is not one of them.
Well, we're not planning to seek participant status, because at this point, I think they're right now dealing with what's the appropriate number, and that's really not where the commission's best able to assist. Whatever the number will be to meet the municipality's constitutional obligation, that's the number that's determined, will be determined by Superior Court. Where the commission can be helpful is in terms of, once you have the number, how is the municipality going to plan to meet that number? And that actually isn't going to happen in terms of the court proceedings until the number is
I might add, the number is important too. I mean, the number has to be feasible within the climate. We're not saying it should be zero, certainly not.
That's,
Well, I guess the reason I said the number isn't quite as important is because outside of those 12 municipalities that are serving the pilots, of the 53 municipalities that we have, the majority of them have lands outside the pylons that can accommodate to some extent a constitutional obligation. So we can't lose sight of the fact that we have towns that are going in and out, and they can't just be looking to the pylons to satisfy that obligation.
to the extent that you've looked at the numbers, and I don't know if you have, are the various planners who put together these numbers, have they considered the CMP in reaching these numbers?
No, I mean, they haven't. They're looking at, and this, believe me, is not my expertise. This is more Larry's expertise, so I'm going to deflect to him.
Some of them have looked at environmentally constrained land. In the original COA allocation didn't take into account constrained land. To some extent, they took into account. I imagine the other people have, but I have not gone into the details to see how they did it. Did they do it in an effective manner or not? Some of the numbers suggest that they need to be relooked at. What's happened is the communities are picking the low numbers and using those to go to the courts with. The intermediaries are saying, wait a minute, that's too low. So that's the friction that's going to occur there. And we just want to make sure that when those numbers are selected, they're at least in the realm of insight.
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to looking at the letter, but I am concerned. I think the numbers, my sense is, at least now, that we may want to weigh in on the numbers in some way, shape, or form, with respect to what the constraints are in the CMP. And so, you know, I'd like to, at least, I'm happy with the letter and put ourselves in a position to help the boards if we can, because I think we have a lot to give.
That's really what the tone of the letter will be, that we're here to help.
Any other questions?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public. I have 5 items I just wanted to touch briefly on. The first one is just an update on the Stafford Township Stormwater Management Basin. That's a waiver of strict compliance that is going to be coming to the Commission based upon a compelling public need. We anticipate that application will be on your agenda for the March Commission meeting. And I just wanted to indicate that public comment on that application occurred at the January 15th Commission meeting, and then there was a second opportunity for public comment on that application, a public hearing on January 20th, Stafford Township Municipal Building. So at this point, the public comment period is closed for that application. The staff will be drafting up a report and a recommendation from the executive director, and that recommendation will arrive to you at the next Commission meeting. Prior to your consideration of that application at the Commission meeting, the staff proposes to provide an overview of the application, just to refresh all the commissioners with what the proposal is. It's important to note that the public comment period is closed and the record itself is closed. We'll be providing that over to you as an overview to the commissioners as a refresher on the application. The next matter, I just wanted to note that the staff attended a meeting at DEP on a wetlands mitigation project in Bass River Township. It's a wetlands mitigation project. We don't see a lot of them in the Pinelands area, but they're actually proposing to convert a former borrow pit that was constructed with Garden State Parkway. Right now it's covered with phragmites. The way the regulations are written, that is a wetlands mitigation project that is permitted in the Pinelands area. Proposed to convert that phragmites, former borrow pit, into, revert it back to the wetland comparable to what's adjacent to it. On January 20th, the staff met with Egg Harbor City officials. Egg Harbor City has about a 100-acre parcel. They'd like to do a redevelopment project for it. Susan Rhodes from the planning staff also attended that meeting. It was really a 2-part meeting. The first part was devising a redevelopment plan to submit to the commission for its review and certification, and the second part being a development application for the parcel. There's a significant amount of wetlands on the parcel, and it's a bit of a challenge in that the city does not know what the development proposal is at the moment, whether it be residential, commercial, combination thereof. We advise the path forward to do the preliminary work, threatened endangered species, wetlands, and the zoning work necessary. The city's proposal is to package the parcel and then go out for redevelopment.
Sorry, it's
Sure.
a terribly simplistic question, but is that typical of the not knowing, just sort of seems.
I think that's fair to say that that's atypical, but somewhat understandable. That it's city's property, they're trying to package in a way to benefit the city's municipal tax structure. On January 26th, the staff, including Executive Director Wittenberg, met some representatives, an applicant in South Toms River. South Toms River is bringing a project before the commission for also a redevelopment proposal. It's a discussion about some of the environmental issues that are involved with the application. It's a parcel that South Toms River Borough itself owns. They have some municipal facilities on part of the parcel. They have a landfill on another portion of the parcel. They have a 17-acre portion of this forested and vacant. And the redevelopment proposal would address both the future development of the parcel and closure of the landfill, tapping of the landfill, if you will. And the last thing I just wanted to note was, I think I mentioned at the last commission meeting, how the Permanent Extension Act expired at the end of 2015. Just as a refresher, the Permanent Extension Act covered municipal approvals through 2007 through 2015, and really protected, without going into great detail, protected applicants from potential zoning changes and approvals expiring. Now that the Permanent Extension Act has come to an end, we're beginning to receive permits in with projects that still weren't completed, but that are now inconsistent with zoning. And we're wrestling with those. There are some other provisions in the Permanent Extension Act that may extend it out to June 2015, but the Permanent Extension Act itself closed at the end of December. So even though that long period of time, 7 years, 6 years, 7 years, we still are getting permits in for projects that didn't get through the process that we're having to sort through. That's the end of my report.
Chuck, I got a question. The wetlands remediation program with the Frank Ladies, what are they using? Fire and pesticides, or?
Well, it's actually in a couple of phases. The first thing they did was they herbicided the Frank Ladies. And these proposals usually come in for herbicide twice to eliminate the Frank Ladies. But they're also proposing in this particular project now to eliminate a berm that's built around this borrow pit. By eliminating the berm, they're going to get tidal flooding back into the area. So they'll be regrading the bottom of the area to accommodate that tidal flooding that should happen.
So they're using 2 herbicide treatments and no fire?
Correct.
And that's all happening in the right of way of the Garden State Park?
No, this is immediately adjacent to Garden State Parkway. For those of you, it's down in New Gretna area. Old Route 9 right-of-way, which was abandoned, right in the New Gretna area. If you want to travel down, I guess that's Route 9, you have to get on the Parkway to go over. That's the Mullica River, and then back onto Route 9. So this parcel is immediately adjacent to the Parkway. So it's not Parkway right-of-way.
It's not one of the ones we've been buying,
No.
selling, whatever we were doing?
No, this
Is the applicant public or private?
private. This person is interested in the wetlands mitigation bank and selling the wetland mitigation credits.
And he wants to take title because of the bonus for title for saltwater wetlands?
I'm not exactly sure of that information.
On the South Toms River, is there anything in writing at this point that talks about the scale of the rezoning, or is it all just verbal?
I don't know if I'd say it's in writing. Maybe we have a general description in writing, and a sort of a conceptual plan of the site that doesn't really take into account, all of the environmental issues that we're talking about, so.
And the
Very
violations.
conceptual at this point, but I think we're doing.
All you need to do is tweak the zoning.
Right, but it's residential.
Well, maybe you could generally describe it to me after the meeting.
That's the end of my report.
Questions for Chuck? Stacy, anything? Susan, anything? Moving on to development projects. First resolution, 2010-047-005. I'll move it. Second. Any comment?
I just had a question about the PDCs. They've been purchased, the application, the first one.
Mr. Chairman, we're on the Egg Harbor City resolution.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
Thank you.
Pull that question back.
I'd like to know why we're maybe 27 feet wide, but it's already in the wetlands. Why aren't we sticking to the width?
Just to clarify, Commissioner, it is not in wetlands. This is a wetlands buffer issue, right?
Yeah, that's what it's in the buffer.
Correct. And based on the applicant's representation as what's necessary for public safety, for traffic purposes, the commission found that it met our standard, which is linear development adjacent to wetlands, linear development of new roads that are necessary for public safety. And based on that representation, which we tried to write in the report, we concluded that it was consistent with our standards.
What criteria do you use to evaluate public safety?
So our says until it becomes obvious that there's a significant issue, we defer to the municipal engineer and the representations of an applicant to a certain extent. We did not feel in this case that the width of the road that was being proposed was abnormally wide, that it raised an issue. We tried to say that a little clearer, Commissioner. I think if they would have proposed a 50-foot wide parkway, we would have asked questions as why is that width of the road necessary? But in this case, given that it was an existing gravel road, and proposing what we thought was a modest widening that they represented was necessary for public safety, we concluded that it met our standards.
Hey, Mom.
Any other comments?
Fix it.
Roll call on that one?
Put a standard in there. Fix it. It's too simple.
Do roll call then? We're gonna do all. Well, let's do all then. All in favor of this?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? One abstention. Next, application 1987-1185.001, applicants Ernest Garcia. Any motion? So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
I just had a question about the PDCs. I think they've been purchased. I just wanted to be clear that the PDC requirements, it says that it's been met in the document, so I assume that means they've been purchased.
Yes, Commissioner. For this application, they previously purchased the time of development credit under the second waiver that expired. Rather a unique application, to say the least, before you.
And the construction started before, if that's been addressed in this document?
Construction, in fact, started.
Before there was a,
Yes. I think this is the third waiver of strict compliance the Commission's acting on for this particular parcel. There was an administrative error municipality where a building permit was issued. After the second waiver had expired, the home is about 33% completed already. I know development credit has been purchased. And we attempted to address the issue of the administrative issue that's been raised by this application.
So it sounds like it was an accident, that the permit was issued and it wasn't delivered, essentially.
Right.
Not related to that, it was an accident. Thank you.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Next, resolution 2015-0044, 001, applicant Gary Russo. Have a motion? Second. If I can just get this right, this is a waiver to be denied. Just review the circumstances for the denial.
Sure, Commissioner. The applicant has applied for a waiver of certain compliance in theory to build a single-family dwelling. Based on our regulation, the parcel would not qualify for a waiver to build a dwelling. What the applicant is attempting to do here is qualify the state's limited practical use program. That's a program where the state acquires properties that have limited use. And a prerequisite for the state entering into that process is that the commission has to have denied a waiver. The theory behind that is if the commission could approve a waiver to build a dwelling on the parcel, then the state would not be purchasing the parcel. So this is a prerequisite for the applicant to attempt to have the state acquire the parcel. Does that help?
Exactly what you think.
There's pages to explain that.
Chuck, what is the value of the LPU on that given parcel? What do you reckon it would be?
It's minimal. I don't know if Mrs. Grogan would like to offer a thought on that, but it is a minimal value.
I'm trying to remember how big this property is, but it's 6 acres. So this is actually quite a bit larger than the usual property we see in the LPU program. Normally we see them, they're about 1/3 of an acre, and I think typically DEP has traditionally offered, I think it's $2,000, is that right? $2,000. Now for even for something as small as 1/3 of an acre. Now this is slightly larger, so I think there would be, they would have to do maybe even do a trail, and they'd end up with a larger amount, but it's not a huge involved, it's, pretty small amounts.
Is there still some money at DEP that?
Well, there's still some money, and DEP is not a lot, but again, these properties are small and few and far between these days, and DEP is still committed to, if you go ahead and deny this waiver, we will send this up there with all the information they need, and they will process it and make an offer.
This pre-program.
Any other comments on this one? All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. No planning matters, right? Nothing. Forward on.
No, next one.
All right, this is to public comment. This is on agenda items and public development applications only. Just as a reminder, it's on every agenda that we post. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes. It is not it's an opportunity for you to make comments on everything on agenda items and public development applications on an open Q&A session. If you have presentations or handouts, please get them to the staff, and we'll make sure they get them as part of the record. So, that being said, public comment. Is there anybody on the agenda items and public development applications? Step on up.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead, Mr.
Just make a few, Bill Wolf, Bordentown, make a few remarks on agenda item number 6. In your packet, there was a memorandum from your planning chief regarding those municipal master plan and ordinance revisions. And I'd just like to make an observation on 2 of them with respect to, we often talk about climate change very abstractly as if it were just some global phenomenon that doesn't have concrete implications for how we do day-to-day things. In the Upper Township ordinance, I didn't get the chance to look at the map and look at the underlying ordinance and master plan revision, but there were bulkhead design standards and building elevations that were, again, if you had a CMP policy with respect to climate, you would look at sea level rise, wave action, and design standards to cope and adapt to those changes. And there, again, is an opportunity to use your power under the CMP to deal with a very concrete change issue, because back bay flooding is the Achilles heel of our whole flood mitigation scheme with respect to the coast. And that's now in your lap due to inaction at the state level, because the CAFR requirements do not consider climate change and sea level rise expressly. The FEMA elevations do not adequately incorporate known projected sea level rise. And there's an opportunity right there, very concrete. Secondarily, the Stafford Township ordinance dealt with a commercial, I think a 50,000 square foot commercial development. Had you had in the CMP energy, net zero energy design and construction standards for buildings, you could use that power under the CMP to do the right thing. So let's not defer action on climate as if it were some abstract, not my job, not in my backyard problem. It's germane to the CMP, you have authority, and I urge you to move on it for things exactly like that. And your other waiver strict compliance could deal with the design storm of the stormwater regulations, which we know stormwater is going to have to be a larger volume because storms are becoming more intense due to more moisture in the atmosphere. We know that. So the design storm has to change. So there's a whole bunch of nuts and bolts things that you can do. Thank you.
Jeff Tittle, Sierra Club. I wanted to follow up on the COA discussion because I think the Commission has to take a very important look at the affordable housing. One, because it is, mandated by the court, and it's not just the numbers; it's where and how you build those numbers. And one of the issues that I think you need to revisit is the memorandum agreement with DEP on sewers. Under that agreement, you're supposed to allow for sewers in villages and towns and growth areas. Some of those areas, there's never been a proper environmental review done for carrying capacity or for environmental impacts. And the concern that I have is that under the old, we're going back to the old round 2 rules, that growth-inducing infrastructure will increase your regional future need for all those communities. And so those numbers could go up and you won't realize it, even if you don't really think they have a place to grow based on that. And then because we're thrown back to the courts, and I hate to defer to Candy, but it's actually 30 years we're going back to 1985 and before 20 years. But in those days, there was kind of a wild west where developers came in and would just swing town by town, and that's going to happen again. And with the courts, some courts will do the right thing, some won't, and that's what happened back then. And so it's something you really need to take a look at where the infrastructure is. And part of it's because there are also changes in state law. When the legislature changed the Water Quality Planning Act 2 years ago, they now allow for 50,000 gallon package plants versus 20,000 gallon package plants. And the difference is 80 townhouses versus 200 townhouses. So you could get a builder's remedy lawsuit in a place like Chatsworth and end up with a 200-unit development with 40 affordable or whatever in a giant package plant. And then all package plants tend to misfire and have to be rebuilt, and then you get regional sewers and a whole mess that's still going on. And, so I think, you need to not only send a letter, but you need to be actively involved, and you need to start looking at not only your plan, but also at your memorandums, agreements, and other things to ensure that you will be able to help keep protecting the pines and not allow the Builders Association to get a wedge in and start undoing Pinelands protections. Thank you.
Teresa Lutton, Pinelands Preservation Alliance. First, I'll tell Alan that I'll try to remember at every budget and personnel meeting to remind you that you haven't given your staff a raise and that they deserve one, so you can report every month to the commission. I'll put it on my list. Numbers are boring.
And we know that, Teresa.
Okay, well, I'll remind you. So you can report on it.
Thank you.
And then you'll remind them, and it'll keep going, and maybe it'll speed up the process. I did want to speak today on the South Jersey Transportation Authority application, the public development application that's pending for widening the existing taxiway at the Atlantic City Airport. I did not look at the application, so I'm not absolutely familiar with where it is on the site that they're doing it, but I do know where the runways are. With your development memorandum of agreement that you made many years ago, that was conditioned on there being a grassland advisory committee that was supposed to meet on a regular basis and get updates. You were destroying habitat at the Atlantic City Airport for teeny species birds. They were supposed to replace that. We were supposed to ongoing, be able to monitor this. The committee hasn't met in years. So I guess I was just wondering if this application then is part of that development MOA. Was that something that was already agreed on? If that is the case, we haven't gotten an update, and maybe the commission has, and they're not reconvening the committee and telling us. I am a member on the committee. I have not gotten a notice for a meeting. So I guess I wonder that if this taxiway widening is not part of that memorandum of agreement, then it even heightens my concerns. Then where is this? What impacts will it have? At the last time we met, the bird habitat had not been established. I don't think they had a lot of information as to the birds using the areas that they were making, and so that a lot of the birds were using the existing habitat. So does that mean that birds have been displaced and now they'll be displaced again? I just have no information. And if the memorandum of agreement was that they have this committee and this committee meet and we get the information, it hasn't been happening. So I guess, I would hope that those are some of the questions you might ask before approving the application next month.
Any other comments on agenda items or pending development applications? Seeing none, we'll close that. Next up, ordinances not requiring commission action. We have really usual. Any comments, anything that you want to go over?
No, not really, just, as you mentioned, there are a lot on there, and sort of in line with what Chuck mentioned earlier, we're seeing a lot of redevelopment plans. This is seemingly what the towns are focusing on these days. You're going to be seeing more and more of them every month because we're getting them all the time. Multiple redevelopment plans in the same town. So, for example, they're on their third one. They're working on number 3 right now, is the one that we were talking about earlier. So that's just a trend that we're seeing, and you're going to be seeing more of them every month.
Any questions on these?
Dealing with some of the kind of things, what we're changing.
It's part of plan review. Larry's been working on it, I've been working on it, Sue's been working on it, so yes.
So
Thank
it'll
you.
be amongst the things that you recommend as a result of
Yes.
plan review.
Yes, so those 3 and
Okay, moving on, we have one more resolution here, and this is for a resolution to authorize the executive director to enter into contract for fabrication and installation of exhibits. The Sullivan Center for Environmental Policy and Education. Second. Those are presentation.
yes, well, I just going to do a presentation.
Good morning, everyone. Before I delve into the details of our RFP, I wanted to provide a little background on the history of this project and the idea behind it, for the benefit of the commissioners and the public. Back in 1988, Congress passed legislation calling on the state of New Jersey to create and carry out a multifaceted plan for raising awareness and appreciation of the land. The idea being the more people understand about the Pinelands and its resources, the more likely they'll support efforts to protect it. including the creation and installation of wayside panels and kiosks, they'll also be partial enforcement, implementing the regional road sign system, and our brochure. The last piece of the puzzle is the designation and creation of the Pinelands Visitor Center. And recognizing that need, the Park Service provided us years ago with $50,000 to fund the assessment of this building as a location for this visitor center. We also paid for the design of the exhibit. Fast forward to 2014, the commission amended its policies for the Pinelands Conservation Fund to add an education and outreach element and account, and that money was used last year to create our new website, and it would also be used here for the exhibits. So that's where we are. This brings us to this point, and we issued our request for proposals. I'll turn off the light. On September 2nd, and we hailed it to 20 prospective bidders. We advertised in all of our official newspapers and posted on our website. Word did spread among the industry, so many more people did receive it than 20. We received 4 total bids by the October 14th deadline. Here are the bids. One from Frederick Walgamuth of Ben Salem, they had the high bid at $433,000. Lynch Exhibits of nearby Burlington, Drill Split Rock in West Orange and Minnesota, and Dimensional Communications in Colorado. We formed an evaluation committee composed of our staff members who were tasked with reviewing these bids independently and scoring them and determining what approach we might take as far as who should be interviewed and what references we wanted. We had a lot of good insight from Melanie Redding, for example, who's a member of our Education Advisory Council, and let's see if I can get this name right, outreach coordinator for the Jacques Cousteau National Esperine Research Reserve. Mouthful. She was responsible for their exhibit project there, so she was a good person to have on our committee to give us insight as to what we should look for. So we decided as a committee we should interview all 4 bidders, and we did that here. We had determined that we felt the best of those 2 were Drill and Split Rock and Lynch Exhibits, so we asked them to give us their best and final offer, and we also contacted their references, and there were many references for both. Lynch Exhibits came back, reduced their bid to $379,000. Drill and Split Rock reaffirmed its bid at $368,000, which is still lower. And after we received those best and final offers and the responses from the references, we scored the bids. And our approach was for this formula to include 60% on how they plan to do the exhibits. A big part of this process and this job will be, we're going to be open as a commission during this construction project, so they got to make sure that they have a specific plan on minimizing disturbance. So doing their work the loudest and the noisiest at off hours when we're not open, and ensuring that there's a suitable environment for us to continue to do business. We also put a lot into their personnel credentials and qualifications. All of these bidders, I should say, were very strong. And cost was the lowest factor in this, and as you see, many of the bids were similar in price. So based on their overall proposal and the responses we received from references, the committee really felt that the best proposal was submitted by Drill and Split Rock. And there's a few reasons for that. We were very impressed, for example, not only with their credentials and the work they've done in other parts of this country, but also the fact that they took us up on our offer to come in and look at the site and get a sense of what they could do here, what they could suggest as far as ways they could accomplish different elements of the visitor center in different ways. And we were very impressed that they did that and that they gave us a lot of very good suggestions. I felt very comfortable with them. So here are some examples of Split Rock's work. Split Rock has done work all throughout the country on national parks, national monuments, historic sites, including Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., the South Carolina State Museum, and Carlsbad Caverns Mine in New Mexico. Drill is from New Jersey. They actually built the Turtleback Zoo in 1967. More recently, they built the African Penguin exhibit there. Obviously, this is a much more ambitious project than what we're looking at. They built the amphibian and reptile complex at Zoo Atlanta. And more recently, they worked with Split Rock to produce the renewable energy exhibit at the Essex County Environmental Center. This one in particular was of interest to us because we spoke to their contacts and they had very good things to say about the approach from Drill and Split Rock as far as making sure that they can continue to have education programs, including bringing in busloads of school children to look at their other exhibits while this project is going on. We're going to have to do the same thing, at least with the public coming in and doing business, and still remain open. So we were very impressed with that. So that brings us to the overview. Just as a refresher, as far as what we're looking at here, here's a design that shows you the schematic of where we're going to do these exhibits. We are right here, and this is the front entrance. We walk in here. The exhibits will be on the wall here, 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 and this is the main exhibit room, which is our current copy center. This is normally where Melody would be, the front desk. Now our receptionist area will be moved over to here. Will be a window placed here. Here's where Chuck Pointer is right now. No longer.
He's right out of there.
And so here's a closer look at that. So you may notice the founder's plaque at the beginning when you walk right in. That's Prime Real Estate. We're going to relocate that next to the reception area. And in its place, we're going to place a welcome message, and that more leads you to where the exhibits will be. There it is there. We talked about this. That will be removed and make way for exhibit room. And you can see here where the receptionist area is now will be a curved wall showing a panoramic view of what you would see from the top of Apple Pie Hill Fire Tower. And here, this represents little flat doors that you open. There. There's 14 different ones with different plants and animals and historic people in the Pinelands. So you can discover what the secrets are and the wonders that lie beneath, including this one, which shows you a ground snake. So, you know, yes. I'll use that softball picture. Here's the area now where we attempt to sell mugs and also have our brochures. And this is the area where the window will be opened up for the new reception area. And we're talking about a very nice treatment here of the ledge, some kind of cedar or something. And that's what we're talking about now. This is the location where the agendas are, right outside. Here, we're going to move this photo and put in a 7-foot wide recreation map. Now, this is really critical for us. We get a lot of people who come in and want to know where they can go and explore the Pinelands. This will be very helpful. We have a very large map that's keyed to different locations where they can go hiking, kayaking, and it's all keyed in with these brochure holders. So this is something we're hoping can be sort of, we don't need to come down every time someone's looking for something, they can help find it themselves, but we're happy to help them whenever they need us. We have 2 people in our public programs office, we're not always here at the same time. So hopefully this will be helpful for people who come in and just want some information about where they can go. Here's the spot where you sit down, where you're ready to come into the commission. In that spot, we're going to put a new monitor, which will display our meeting information, upcoming public hearings, and other things. So as opposed to using that old little sign out there with the little letters that sometimes don't always, work, we're going to have information about public notices on that monitor. We're also going to invite local photographers to send us their images. We're going to sponsor a photographer every month whose images will be on display. Here's the centerpiece of the opening for the new design, the main part of the design, I should say. So it shows you information and a lot of details about what we struggled to describe for a very long time, which is what is the Kirkwood-Cohansey aquifer? What does it look like? So for many years, I've gotten calls from newspaper reporters, and there's an author working on a book about the Casey's aquifer right now. And she said, well, can you take me there? I want to go there and find out what it is. Is it under the ground, as if there's some staircase that leads you to a cave? So there isn't. And in some cases, you can see where the aquifer comes to the surface. But this will be very helpful to us as far as our ability to describe these layers of sand and gravel that contain the water that is the lifeblood of the Pinelands. So a closer look at that. It's encased in acrylic, the different layers of gravel and sand, and then clay at the bottom with little holes so you can feel them, so you can get a sense of what we're talking about. We're also going to have an aquifer model, and in that model, you press a button here, and it rains, and it drifts down to here, and then you see how the aquifer will store the water. So that's something we've wanted for some time. here's the center part of the exhibit. This is what it will look like when you walk in our current coffee room. In the center, you'll notice a cedar tree that rises toward the sky, and then you'll see different things that are made from natural resources in the Pinelands. So as you may know, bog iron was used to make cannonballs and pots, and also in some cases headstones. We're going to have all those things there. Sand was used to make glass, including the first mason jar, which was invented in the Pinelands in Crawleytown, Burlington County. We're also going to have cranberries and cranberry crates and cranberry scoop and things carved out of cedar, such as Barney Bay style duck decoys. Here's a closer look at that. They're going to carve a little Jersey Devil out of cedar, which is interesting. And around it, there are little railings that are also providing an opportunity for information. And on one of them, we have information about the local language. This was an interesting part that we got this information from Marilyn Schmidt from Busby's, and I don't know if you are familiar with any of these terms or use them, but I thought they were kind of interesting. Swamp chicken is another way of saying snapping turtle. That's interesting. Here's the upland section, and this will focus on the interrelationship with fire in our ecosystem. We're also going to talk a little bit about development in that area. We're going to talk about the blueberry industry and Elizabeth White. There's a flying squirrel up here. I've never seen one. And then the next section is the wetland section, where it's going to focus on cranberries and wetland habitats and threatened endangered species. We're going to have a little tank here, which may house a frog or a aquatic turtle. We're sorting that out. There will be a miniature sneak box, which is a historic box that was used, or boat that was made out of cedar and used in this area for duck hunting. We're having 2 flip books created that will also be part of the exhibit. These are about 8-page books that focus on animals and plants. And here's the last part of it, which is the aquatic section, which will have another interactive, which will show people how and why the water is tea colored. So you're going to use different ingredients represented by lenses to put them together, and it creates the cedar water. Last part of that is the aquarium here, which will have native Pinelands fish in it, most likely banded sunfish. So here's our estimated construction schedule. Assuming you adopt the resolution today, that would take us to contracting process, and then from there, throughout March, they'll have a kickoff workshop here. We need to obtain permits. In this case, those permits would be obtained from the Department of Treasury. And then there will be pre-production. So many of these exhibits will be created in Minnesota and sent out here, and Split Rock's crew would install them here. That's not uncommon. So they need to come in and take measurements and other drawings and finalize the artwork and make sure we acquire all of these materials, including the artifacts. We've already begun looking at that. People have offered us things such as cannonballs and other things that were made around here. We want to get those things rather than have to buy them. It adds more to the history. It's the real thing versus something that has to be made. So that's what we're looking at. And the actual exhibits will be made between May and October. And the building upgrades themselves, which will call for new flooring. In this case, it will be LEED certified flooring made from recycled material, and new lighting and painting. And we're looking, according to this schedule, somewhere between November and December to do that, which will, by the way, necessitate most likely us to have one of our meetings for 1 month in a different location. And so project closeout will consist of them walking through the new exhibits with us with a checklist, making sure everything was done that they contractually said they would do. They need to provide us with a operations manual for the maintenance and upkeep of this. I should note as well that they will have to have a project manager designated who will be on site during all times of demolition and construction. And our grand opening, we're going to do some kind of event here, will be roughly in January 2017.
I just want to ask, when we've been building buildings and some other things we've done, we've always had somebody from the commission helping you, serving with you. Are you planning that, or are you basically just going to go ahead with what you've got?
In what way do you mean?
Well, we have at various times done everything from picking chairs, which you can do very well, to designing the building with the architects.
Well, that,
So I just offered to help
Okay.
if you need it, because there may be something that we could help with.
well, I appreciate that offer. As it happens, I had 4 tiles here. But yes, no, in reality, yes, that would be helpful. There's going to be some finishing touches that we're going to have to take that have not been sorted out yet. The floors, the walls, colors, the exact situation of the lighting. We are looking at the possibility of a new exhibit that's part of this that would provide to you the evolution of Pinelands protection. We've been looking through all of the information we have. We have some great stuff that's been given to us over the years, historic documents, old newspaper articles. We have a telegram from the former freeholder director.
I'd be glad to send you my file.
I had this picture playing softball.
Let me jump on that.
right?
Yes.
Paul and Nancy, if you could maybe shoot an email out to the commissioners and see if there's 1 or 2 that want to help out and be like a liaison to this. They might need to
Sure. Sure. I mean, much of it is contained within the design plan itself, but they haven't been finalized in some ways as well, especially the building parts of, like the walls and the floors and the ceilings. We were here yesterday looking at that, poking around and making sure that this will work.
When all is said and done, it's beautiful, thank you, Paul. Is there a long-term strategy for promoting and marketing
Yes.
this beautiful site?
Absolutely.
Because that's the key, actually, getting people.
Absolutely. That, before we even started doing this, we were talking about that with our Education Advisory Council, because the last thing we want to do is just build it and hope that people show up.
Right.
We're going to have an aggressive plan, calling on all of the connections we've made over the years with the school districts. Joel goes out, does many presentations, the short course, the World Water Monitoring Day. We're going to have school groups come in on a regular basis.
That's wonderful. And move beyond, and my suggestion is to move beyond just the climate, and bring others in New Jersey
Sure.
down here. And will you be partnering with different agencies?
Absolutely. That was brought up recently. The Pinelands Institute at White Spot, they do their own field trips. EPA does field trips, and they do education programs. We're happy to make this available to anyone. The idea being, we need to raise more awareness about this area, and especially we need to instill a sense of stewardship among younger generations. And that's because really they're going to carry the flag far into the future when we're all gone.
Well, I had a question about some of the design elements in the lobby. I think they would probably commission artists or commission to make some of those elements. What is going to happen? I noticed in Melanie's desk, there's a nice design style with files, and I think there's some other elements out there. Are they going to be reused, or what's going to happen?
We're in discussions about that with the designer. The only one that would be directly affected would be the receptionist desk itself, which was a piece of art. We took a close look at the Art Inclusion Act, which requires all new public buildings to have this art element, particularly from local artists. But as it goes on beyond that, there's no requirement that it must be reused, but we would like to find a way to do that.
That's basically what my question is. I mean, how can we reuse these things? Because I think,
Well, this bit,
they're
I'm
beautiful.
sorry, the contractor had suggestions for reusing the tiles from
Oh,
the
yeah.
desk. Yeah, so we are in
Yeah.
discussion with them to do that.
To the extent possible, we want to recycle as much as we can. We don't want to raise costs, we don't want to contribute to landfills and all that stuff. That's why we're looking at what we have. And the only thing that would be affected art-wise is that one desk. Everything else is going to be kept.
What's going to happen to the bench that has the tile?
Oh, that's going to stay.
It's going to stay in the same spot?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And in fact, we believe it'll get used more, because as it stands now, with the receptionist area, you feel like you're not allowed to go back there, because you're behind the receptionist, and it feels kind of weird. Now, because that'll be moved, you'll be more likely to go over there, especially because there's going to be exhibits over there for you to look at.
Thank you.
I have a question. It looked like the budget called for $350,000 on this, and we're at $368,000.
So the bids all came in what we budgeted for FY 16. We don't think, we've been working with the contractor to see if there is a chance to bring the price down, assuming we cannot. then we're not going to be finished in FY16, and we have additional funds in the account for education that we will discuss to be budgeted for FY17. And I think it's about 18,000 difference.
18,000 difference.
Yeah.
So we have more than enough money to fund that, in that amount. But we're looking at different ways to change things that we felt, since it's been a few years since we put this design plan together. We thought of some new ideas, some ambient sounds, for example, of tree frogs calling and rattlesnakes rattling and other things that are connected to motion sensors. So these are things that we're looking at now. How much do those things cost? We don't want to go above what we spend, for certain.
Mr. Chairman, could I just comment on a couple of things that were raised here? In terms of the budget, all this money, it comes from the Pinelands Conservation Fund, which is mostly funded from MOA agreements, as I understand it. So there isn't any direct tax dollars or legislative appropriations, as I understand it, in this project. So that's a positive. I asked the same question, Commissioner, about reusing the tile at the committee meeting where this was discussed. I was assured that it would be. I can assure you that it will be, because we'll watch that. And
They were privately funded to start with.
and they were part of the obligation for the percentage of art that goes into the new construction of state villages. I think we need to be careful that we maintain that. I don't remember who made those tiles, but they were by some recognized artist or craftsman. And the only thing that I'd like to be involved with is picking the name on the tombstone. We'll discuss that as we go on, but I think Commissioner Ashman has a good point that having direct commission involvement solves a lot of problems at the end. When somebody says, why did you do this? You can say, well, that was candy.
I'm more than happy to have help with that, and I've been carrying around floor tiles and different things the past couple of days, because I know how challenging that would be to pick those kind of things, because, you know.
Whatever color I picked would be wrong.
Yeah.
I've been married too long to. Yeah, I know. But I thought that the other thing I wanted to say is I was hoping Commissioner DeBella would be here, because this really started through a grant from the Department of Interior, which I think was like $50,000 a couple of years ago. So that was very, kudos to his agency for putting up the money that let us get to the point now where we can go ahead on our own. I wanted to thank him for that personally. And thank him at the meeting before the meeting, not publicly, voluntary.
Next month.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments on the presentation or on the resolution? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If not, abstain. All right. All right, moving forward, general public comments. As we did with the last public comment, please try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you have questions, comments, questions or handouts, presentations, please get them to staff. We'll get them for the record.
I guess they don't want you to present.
Terry, let me know again.
All right, presentation, like, presentation, nothing.
Ms. Letman?
You're up.
Oh, no, I didn't know where to sign up. There was no sign-up sheet for public development applications, so I used that one.
Jeff Tittle.
I signed up number 5. Figured I'd let other people speak.
Thank you, and I just want to start off and say that as someone who's been coming for meetings for a long time, now that there's some newer, people who haven't known me as long, I just wanted to say that it used to be, I only came when things were really good or really bad, so if you do really good things, I'll show up once in a while, but if you don't do anything bad, I won't be here, so you don't have to hear me anymore. So please keep that in mind. I just wanted to start off with, I thought this visitor center idea was wonderful. I think it's important to have a place where people can come in and see all the magic of the Pinelands and why we all love it so much. However, museums are also places where we put things that are no longer there. We have this wonderful living museum out here that I'm very concerned about that is starting to suffer the death of 1,000 cuts. Whether it's turf grass soccer tournament fields or pipeline after pipeline or extension of sewers, the potential impact from affordable housing litigation that may be coming, detention basins in forest preservation areas, the failure to really, I think, really look and overhaul some of our processes here that we need to do, our memorandums of agreements and how they come to be, how we deal with applications like these pipelines, moving forward on climate impacts. I hate to say it, but you may have this exhibition in there on cranberries, but if climate change keeps happening the way it is, New Jersey already is the warmest place in the world that grows cranberries, so that may be the only place. If we keep cutting down our forests and allowing for all this intrusion with pipelines, well, that tree may be the only tree left. And same thing with tree frogs, we may never hear them in the wild again. And so it's wonderful that we're having this visitor center so that people can come here and see the magic of this place. But it's also important to remember that we have this living museum out there that we really need to work to protect. That CMP stands for Comprehensive Management Plan, not Compromise. That it's a protection act, not a permissive act, and that we need to make sure that the Pinelands will be here for generations to come, that it won't be changing dramatically, that we won't be adding peaks in high-rises or buildings or towers to those beautiful views that are there, and that those sand filters that help protect this wonderful aquifer will still be there, and those wonderful cedar swamps and those streams where we go kayaking and canoeing will still be pristine for everyone to enjoy. So I think it's a great project, but I also remember as the song goes, pave paradise and put up a parking lot and only see a tree in the tree museum. So thank you. Good luck with your project.
You're welcome.
Bill Wolf, Board and 10. I got half a dozen items I'll try to go through very quickly. Minor technical stuff during the discussion on the DEP wetlands mitigation project. It's a private mitigation scheme to develop mitigation credits. Commissioner Coletta raised a great point on fire. Why isn't there a policy that says fire is a preferable management tool to herbicides? And if there's not one, perhaps consider directing staff to write one. And if you incorporate it in the CMP, or if you can do it informally, I think that obviously makes sense. We should discourage herbicide treatments, particularly when fire is a better management tool. By the same token, another, again, minor thing that emerged during the technical discussion with respect to deference to an applicant on public safety questions in reducing wetlands buffer widths. Again, memorandum to the executive director, fix it. Put criterion standards in there, or tighten up the discretion, because we shouldn't be relying on representations of an applicant, particularly with respect to reducing buffer widths. Candy made the point, pave away. I mean, just don't let this stuff go. When this stuff comes to your attention, hold the staff accountable and fix it. There's a way to do it. You can do it through a policy memorandum from the executive director and her staff on review, or you can do it through amendments to the CMP, but do it. With respect to the visitor center, if it's not too late, was there an opportunity to solicit input from local artists and craftsmen? Because there's wonderful art and crafts right here, where those folks brought in, and is it not too late to get them on board? I don't know, I didn't hear that. I love Lake Wobegon and the great state of Minnesota, but they do good things right here in the Pinelands. I made my earlier point on climate change. I won't beat that dead horse, but I hope you move forward, and you move forward with some sense of urgency, and that we don't in any way replicate the two debacles on pipelines that we've done. Whether that's done through standards or whether that's done through some form of administrative moratorium on any fossil fuel infrastructure, it's got to get done. Plan review, last time the P&I committee, there was a presentation on plan review, and there were recommendations that were run through. And some of them were discussed very briefly this morning by Mr. Liggett. The one I'm focused on is the Kirkwood-Hansi project. And the recommendation was that there would be a policy discussion of policy options with technical experts. I urge you strongly, that's a great idea, but that meeting needs to be open. It may not be participatory from the public, but the public needs to hear that conversation between the experts, because we're not discussing science and methodology here, we're discussing policy options. And that was in your briefing, that was your words, policy options. So given that they're policy options, I urge, and I tried to reach out to the executive director to get invited to this, and I was told there's nothing concrete planned yet. But the recommendation said expert discussion of policy options, and then it said considering a public meeting as well. Public meeting, again, great idea, but the public needs to understand the technical policy options that are out there, because there's big issues lurking in the methodology questions as to the way you go about applying that science. And I don't want to go into detail here, but it's very, very important. Fourth and penultimate point, the plan review report talked about various CMP amendments, and they all said submit to the governor's office. I was very curious by that, because when I read the Pinelands Protection Act, it gives the commission in but not of status, and it gives the commission regulatory authority. And then I read the Administrative Procedures Act as to what the procedures are for rulemaking, and nowhere statutorily do I see any role for the governor's office to review proposed rules prior to the publication in the New Jersey Register. So I'm just curious, maybe historical practice, but where is it rooted, and where it's in the authority, in legislative authority, where do you find the need to send something up to Trenton and ask permission before you do it? And I think that that's the wrong relationship between the Pinelands Commission and the governor's office, and I think it was the source of friction and serious controversy with a number of issues dealing with the commission, dealing with the pipeline review process, and it's got to be fixed. And somebody please answer that question and do it rigorously as to where that comes from and why it's done. And finally, and this is I should have done this first because it's the most important point. PPA, Jason from PPA was gracious enough to take me out. I'm not a piney. I don't know the woods. I've tinkered around the margins. I got an all-day tour of the destruction that's being done by off-road vehicles, and I was absolutely shocked what's really going on. And I'm assuming that was in the pictures you guys got last time. But the type of destruction that I saw is totally, it's almost not really believable until you see it. And we finished the tour with an incredibly beautiful meadow that was still not yet destroyed, but there had been trucks through. We started the tour in ponds that had been destroyed completely. Vegetation, any aquatic organisms, any kind of life that was there was completely destroyed by these guys doing donuts, creating ponds and roads. Roads they're turning into ponds. There's roads that are effectively running streams. And the meadow destruction is just truly remarkable. So again, if you could get out and see that, I would urge you as a commission to take that tour by somebody to see the destruction that's going. I don't think pictures do it justice. I brought my camera and took pictures. But I think you really need to see it. And then you'll get a sense of urgency saying, well, this is completely indefensible. And the recreational users obviously could not support doing what some of their people are doing. Okay?
Thanks. Can't read the last name here, but Bob F.
Double check.
Pictures.
I'm Phillips, Linwood, New Jersey. I'm here to address some of the, kind of the theater of the absurd. There's so many different things quoted in the press that are very difficult to believe. One of which is that somehow the pipeline helps the Pinelands. The pipeline goes from Millville outside of the Pinelands to BL England, which is outside the Pinelands. It benefits the Pinelands in absolutely no way whatsoever. It's called a reliability project. There has never been any problem with the reliability of gas anywhere in South Jersey. and there's never been a problem with reliability from the BL England plant. The reliability problem is power lines, and you're not going to correct that by putting in a pipeline. It was said, oh, the existing pipeline isn't a terrorist threat, and that's absolutely true. The existing pipeline's low pressure. It's not, even if somebody tries to sabotage it, it's not going to do much. With your pipeline, if it's sabotaged, it's going to create a monster crater, and it's going to shut down the entire power plant. Coal does not explode. The thing that's there is much better in the public interest. Yet somehow the executive director has authority to approve the pipeline. Now, I do not think that that's exactly in the job description, and it's not the Chamber of Commerce, it's certainly not the Board of Public Utilities, and why the Pinelands Commission, the Pinelands executive director would just say, oh, well, that's perfectly, it's in behalf of the Pinelands that this is being done. It's a huge waste of time, and it's a huge waste of money. You're going to get rid of the rail line that runs there. You're going to destroy the cooling tower, which you see in the background here. It cost $800 million to build it. The scrap metal value is probably in excess of $100 million. I wonder who gets to tear that down, because it becomes totally useless. The gas turbine does not use a cooling tower. So you're wasting a perfectly fine plant because, oh, DEP requires it. Yet DEP permits the nuclear plant in Lacey Township, it's destroying Barnegat Bay, to stay open. The Pinelands Commission overriding goals are to preserve, protect, and enhance the significant land values and water resources of the Pinelands. The Pinelands is to protect the quality of surface, groundwater, promote compatible agricultural regulations. Yet we see in a memo from Mr. Liggett that the Commission has adopted DEP as DEP's best engineering management policies, which are, shall we say, totally, completely bogus. The stormwater management practices is one of the more poorly written documents I've ever seen. None of the references in it are citing anything specific. There is no benefit whatsoever, and there's no report to say there is a benefit from having a water quality basin. In fact, DEP's consultant, Cahill, which they cite in here, they totally ignore what Cahill says. When Cahill says that what you want to do is that a detention basin controls rate and volume, but it fails to control any non-point sources. And things that you should do are to consider water as a resource, not something to be disposed of. However, DEP says, oh, you need to do it, but you need to build a basin, even though the law itself says they. You're supposed to maintain groundwater recharge. You're not doing that. And minimize pollutants. You're not doing that. Protect public safety through proper design. You're not doing that either. And I do have a little.
Could you wrap this up soon?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Let me get you some pictures of exactly what you've been doing to our environment. Exit 44 at one time was beautiful treed land. It now has the median scooped out, basin scooped out on both sides in an area where it never flooded. Where there was nothing but trees, you now have a huge, filthy mud puddle. It never existed before. It was created by DEP to supposedly create groundwater recharge. You're supposed to minimize structural. You've got guardrails all over everywhere. You've dug a huge hole, and you've destroyed the beautiful forests that used to be there in the name of totally bogus water quality. I do have one extra thing. Somebody up at Brick was horribly impacted by the basins, and they tore out the median strip. They dug a huge trench. Now living in evergreen woods off of Brick is difficult to deal with. Yet the trees are destroyed willy-nilly all the time, right underneath your nose. However, the thing that's important in New Jersey, move a couple of traffic cones and it becomes a federal offense. spend huge amounts of public dollars to destroy our beautiful scenery.
Sir, thank
Do-
you.
dealing-
Sir, if you could close out, please.
Let the man speak. Let him speak.
This is a complete farce. If you're letting that happen to our woodlands, it's disgusting.
Mary Ann Clemente.
There'll be extra copies of the cartoon outside if anybody's interested.
Mary Ann Clementi from Barnegat. I'm from one of the towns that are partly in the preservation area and partly out of it. And they're a new person here, new responsibilities for some. When I sign in as citizen of planet Earth. Because that's what I'm here for. I don't represent an environmental agency. I represent people of this earth. And there are two things in the, I think the exhibit center is a great idea. I think Jeff Tittle hit it right on the head when he said that we have a living museum right outside the door. And that's what your responsibility is under the comprehensive management plan, to preserve, protect, and enhance. Now, when Commissioner Silla was sworn in, I was trying to listen. I had trouble hearing the attorney administer the oath. I heard about the Constitution, upholding the Constitution, but did I miss where there was something in there about upholding the Pinelands Preservation Act and the comprehensive management, where the duty of the commissioners is to protect, preserve, protect, and enhance? If it's not in the oath, it should be in the oath. In the presentation on the new exhibit, there were 2 points that were made that impressed me. And one was that the Kirkwood-Cohansey aquifer is the lifeblood of the Pinelands. It's more than the lifeblood of the Pinelands. It's the lifeblood of human nature in this area. It's one of the most pristine and valued aquifers we have in this country. And running pipelines through the pipelines is a direct threat to that resource that we have that is the lifeblood of this area as well as the state. The second comment that was made that I was very happy to hear and also firmly believe is that the exhibit is meant to instill stewardship to the younger generation. And one of the things, we were talking in the car coming up here, that just boggles my mind in terms of how you vote on things that are so important to our environment, to our life, and the fact that everything seems to be done for the money. I wonder how some of you commissioners can vote with a clean conscience for how you are looking down the road to preserve this wonderful area for your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and so on down the line. Because by allowing all of these pipelines, these different developments to occur, you are destroying that future for your children and grandchildren. So I beg of you,
I beg of you, regardless of how you voted in the past, you need to take a look at that legacy that you're leaving, because it's not a healthy legacy for this earth. Thank you.
Thank you. Jason Howell?
Hi, Jason Howell, Pinelands Preservation Alliance. And again, I just want to thank the Commission for taking interest in the off-road vehicle issue of the Pines. Again, I've been seriously studying this issue, and we are doing tours of the damage as well as the beautiful places that we still have left and that need protection. Just to introduce the Commission into what we're talking about here, there is a hobby that's called mudding. And this is where individuals, groups of individuals, have large trucks with great lifts and large tires, and they'll go and seek out a wetland or upland area, and they will drive into a pond, and then they drive around in circles as a challenge to see if they can make it through and just have fun and spray mud, basically. But what that does is completely annihilate the habitat for anything living there. And perhaps the individuals engaged in this may not understand the consequence, but we have been mapping this, and it's really been devastating to many areas, many large areas. And I just wanted to show the Commission this soil conservation pamphlet from 1938. And it's just something my grandfather had. He was a blueberry farmer in Hamilton. And we learned about gully erosion and erosion in the popular culture after the Dust Bowl. But it seems to me that some in our culture have forgotten this great lesson of soil conservation, that soil really is life. And I just think we need to take serious action on this issue to preserve what we have left, because especially in Wharton, but also many other areas, we are losing some of the most beautiful places that we have, large savannas, intermittent ponds, and I think it's just very important for the Commission to take a strong interest in this issue that is growing in time. Now the DEP, they had a plan to start to reduce this damage, but through political pressure and special interests, the Commissioner of the DEP said no more protection. They pulled up stakes to many of these ponds and riverbanks and ice age dunes, and now the damage has started to reoccur, and I just think it's time that the Commission takes action on this. I'm sure the commissioners that are able, you would be very well, it'd be a very good idea for you to take tours and see what's actually going on out there, because this is incredibly pressing. Now, the enforcement issue, the DEP says they're going to look into enforcement. But I'm in Warren and the Pines, I'm out there all the time. I've given 3 tours since the P&I committee, totaling approximately 20 hours. And we have not seen one law enforcement officer during that time. I did have to call Fish and Game on 2 individuals who were going to the wetland and driving their trucks around in it. And they had said in this one specific area, they had issued 170 tickets the previous summer, and that it made no difference. They just kept coming back and coming back. These motorized routes need to be shut down, especially in the wetlands. That's my opinion. I thank you for looking into this issue, and have a nice day. Bye.
The list, are there any other for public comment?
Yeah.
Start over here.
Margaret Meissner Jackson with the Ocean County Sierra Club and the Conservation Chair and Vice Chair. There have been several mentioning about development. A few months ago there were the proposal for new sewer lines like South Toms River, and I think it was Manchester and so on, and a few other areas. And again, development came up in affordable housing and so on. Somehow or other, whoever puts out these things of affordable housing in Pinelands or anywhere else or in the regional growth area, they don't seem to be up on what is going on with the younger generation. It has been said time and again in the last 6 months or 12 months or so that the millennials, those that are from the 20s to 40s or 35 or something age, they don't want to go, they don't want to live in the suburbs. They want to go and move into the cities. For reason is they don't have to commute to their places of work, and they have entertainment, and they have culture, they have art, and so on. They don't want to do like their parents. We have, I mentioned this before, my son is a certified land surveyor and is partner in a company, and they don't have any work. Simply because there are so many empty houses here that could be converted. If the Builders Association would have trainees, and there would be trainees in the high schools for trades, we would be able to repair or change or remodel or something like that so that these houses can be used. They're just sitting there. You see the pages and pages and buildings in foreclosure, every township around, at least in Ocean County. But I understand the Mount Laurel decision, and it came in at a time when it was necessary. But there are other ways of bringing down the cost of living and renting or with property taxes. In our area, I see this all the time, the rents are about $1,100, $1,500 a month. That's unaffordable. But the reason is what's driving this up is the property taxes. So something needs to be done on the state level on that. That's probably out of your reach. But we cannot keep putting sewer lines in and pipelines and buildings and so on. I mean, what is going to be left of New Jersey? They're planning 11 pipelines through New Jersey. 11. The destruction that goes with it. It's unbelievable. So something needs to be rethought, and maybe some people should look into the whatever the next generation is going to do. I have lived more than three quarters of a century, and what was in our age, in that age group when we were that age, yeah, everybody wanted to move out into the green, but there was no culture, there was nothing else to go with it. We raised our kids, but they are now moving into the city or out of state. Those that get the education outside the state, college education and so on, and many of them are moving. And that was just in the news a couple of days ago. So thank you very much. It's something that needs to be considered on the state level, not just here. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Tame, Mount Holly. I remember going back in the 70s, attending many meetings when the commission came up to be started. I remember reading the draft in 79. I remember in 1980 when it was approved. I have attended meetings years ago. But what I've seen and heard in recent years, particularly this past year, it just blows my mind. I wonder if the CMP, if every commission member has gone through it and think about it. Because if they did, I think things would be a lot different today. One of the things is this pipeline. It's just insane that 30 miles, approximately 10 feet physically disturbance, that's direct disturbance of 10 feet. That's 1.5 million square feet. That's around 30 acres. I just don't believe it. I just don't believe. And that's direct disturbance of only 10 feet wide, which is much more on direct disturbance. Once you open that ditch up and put that pipeline in, you got a conduit for anything to travel through the bill that goes back in there. You've disturbed that permanently, forever, with it. Also, doing construction, they're going to be dewatering, putting spears down in the ground to pump up the water so they could put their pipelines through. That creates new pathways through the soil to have contaminants or water travel, and that ends up permanently. In the past, where major pipelines have gone through, where there was dry areas, after they're through several years later, they had wet areas. Where there's wet areas several years later, there were dry areas. It's something that you can't reverse. And this pipeline is a transmission line, or you might say it's a tank farm underground when it's 750-pound pressure at 30-inch in diameter, 30 miles long. It's insane. And if anything happens, you have to think of a forest fire. And forest fire, they're awful. I remember the one in 63, I think it was April 22nd of 63. It went through 100,000 acres in this area here. It destroyed everything. It also took 2 lives and many homes damaged. I mean, these are things you cannot replace. But the damage here and the scope of this project is enormous on it. Over at the military installation, the joint base there, they have spent $100 and something millions over the years to clean up and try to remedy contamination that has occurred with it. This may just complicate the process of spending all that millions of dollars, and now this comes through and creates a new problem and spreads some of it even further in the future. Sometimes you don't realize what you're doing until 20, 30 years later, and then it's too late to reverse the contamination or the course you have taken. This is completely, you have to do some strong thinking. And not only that, but for the director to approve an application, approve the filing so quickly, when I've known of people around the surrounding towns that have applied and it took them years to get something just to put up a home or around their home. It's insane what's taking place with the commission these days. It's just not there on it. And one of the other things I heard about this 3-minute business. When did it come up and who initiated it? You said recommend your talk to 3 minutes, if I heard correctly? Now, who initiated that?
Sure, it's been on our agenda as long as I've been here.
Unenforced.
Well, I don't think it's proper for public. I think democracy is based on meetings and town meetings. You wouldn't have the democracy you have in this country if it wasn't for meetings and town meetings. And as long as they're in an orderly fashion, they shouldn't be timed in any shape or form. People sit here and they listen to the members speak, and the members speak until they have finished of what they wanted to explain. I feel the same privilege should be given to anybody from the public attending, that they should be able to speak until they put across what they want to put across. And I think it's wrong to time it to 3 minutes. They rush to go through it and they forget what they're saying, or they don't get across what they want to get across. And that's not democracy. Democracy, you're a public body here. I realize you don't get paid, but nobody forced you to take this position to be on the commission. At any time you could drop out. If you don't have the time to put in it, fine. If you got an appointment for noon time, you want everybody out of here, that's wrong. You're the one that should be out of here, not them. Thank you.
Extremely well said.
Arnold Fishman, Medford Lakes. I guess I'm looking for a status report. I wonder what happened with respect to the MOA ad hoc committee. The last time we met, a report was to be drafted and circulated to the members of the committee. And then a final report was to be made to the P&I committee, is my understanding. And it's been a few months now and I've received nothing, and I would just wonder whether we're still on track for that.
I think I can answer that. Basically, what Susan and I have done is compile all the things that we talked about, and I thought we mailed it to everybody. We will mail it to everybody.
Soon, you'll be getting it soon.
I'm sorry that you haven't had it yet, but it's
It's still happening.
still happening.
Thank you.
Very much so.
Thank you. And snail mail?
No, we'll email.
Email?
Well,
Tammy Fishman, Bedford Lakes. Forgive me if I'm repeating some of the thoughts that others have said, but I think it's so important not to be forgotten that the odds against the Pinelands are increasing. And the advancing menace of the South Jersey gas pipeline, just one of many, snaking through the pristine forest. But the odds are really stacked against all of us. The gains that we imagine will be short-lived. Because when we degrade the environment as this project, newly named, but really the same old as ever, will surely do, we will all lose in the end. Already the Pinelands suffer the consequences of climate change, and now there are plans to put the final nails in the coffin. Ironically, those given the honorable responsibility to protect them, our precious Pinelands, have been silenced, as dubious interpretations of the law yank that responsibility out of the hands of this commission. Power now rests with the executive director and others who have no hesitation about gas lines cutting through the heart of the Pinelands. The business interests are winning. Our governor, who has been entrusted with protecting the public good, has helped rig the game by changing this commission, removing those who voted to preserve and protect our pine forests. As the planet burns, with the heat of climate change mounting, making 2015 the hottest year on record, those who should know better are promoting more fossil fuel infrastructure. Yet, even as we speak, many opportunities present themselves for employment and energy security in the fields of sustainable energy sources. But those who should be leading us into the future, our legislators, our governor, the Board of Public Utilities, are pushing for more environmental degradation and climate change by serving the interests of the fossil fuel industry. This commission has been emasculated and our future sold to the highest bidder. One of the rarest treasures on this planet, recognized internationally, is about to suffer irreparable damage. To paraphrase the great E.O. Wilson, we have been given a masterpiece and are about to burn it to cook our dinner. Our children will ask us why we allowed it, and what will we say? I hope you, the Pinelands Commission, can yet stand up and speak out to find a way to use your power, which is your mandate, to preserve the Pinelands and stop this outrage.
I know you already had your time, so please be brief.
It will be very brief. As the gentleman before me said, in an effort to try and be brief, you forget things. When we get up and speak, and there are lots of questions that get asked, when are they going to be answered? How are they answered? Like Mr. Wolf's question on the permission of the governor, where things were being presented now to the governor as opposed to you're an independent body, should be making these decisions, not asking permission first. Or my question about what was in the oath being given. How do we get answers to those questions? Because they're in the minutes, because we're asking them. So how do they get answered?
I'd ask, if you have specific questions, put them in writing with the executive director. She'll distribute them to all of us, make sure they get in the minutes, and then we can address them at the next meeting.
What do you mean make sure they get in the minutes? Aren't, when we get up here and speak, aren't they in the minutes?
They're in minutes, yes, but if you wanted a response in the minutes, submit them to the executive director, she'll get them to us and we'll respond. We'll make sure
Has
that it's in
anybody
minutes.
gotten a response to any questions? Because we ask questions all the time.
Just know there's a copy of the oath, as you can have right now. She can show that to you.
Thank you.
Two quick informational items. The Pinelands Commission is not alone. On Wednesday, the California Coastal Commission, the oil, gas, and development lobbies captured that commission and they displaced and fired their outspoken chairman. That's highly significant. Coast to coast. Oil and gas and development interests destroying regulatory bodies and their independence. Candidate Bernie Sanders is right. The game is rigged, and there will be consequences if we don't begin reforms. Second point of interest, yesterday I was given an investor briefing by the document, the PDF, I didn't attend, a PDF investor briefing by a major pipeline company. And they are, even with a huge 8 billion cubic feet per day, 40% increase in demand associated with natural gas exports, there will be a 22 billion cubic foot per day glut of gas by 2020. So you're a planning body. Had you just done basic due diligence on planning and demonstration of need for that pipeline and that power capacity, you would never have approved those pipelines. And we said all along, we've been saying from day one, that there was not sufficient needs for those pipelines. And now we have the industry itself briefing Wall Street investors that the plummeting prices of gas and oil are making huge investments uneconomic. All right? You don't hear this argument from the environmental community, but believe me, we're sufficiently sophisticated. We don't lead with the economics, but we're right on the economics too. All right? And I will send that to the executive director, and I hope that the commission as a whole reads that kind of stuff, because it's a huge I told you so. And I'll send it up to the Board of Public Utilities too.
Thank you. Anybody do it?
Linda Chamberlain, Tabernacle. I never speak. But Paul, I think the exhibit is wonderful. Would there be a way, or is it too late, to non-politically somehow show the need for the Pinelands, how fragile they are, the need to be protected? I don't want it to be political, but I think it would be a great part of the exhibit if we could show that it is fragile. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Brad Sterling. I'm from Pemberton. My first time at a meeting.
Right, can we try to get you on the mic so we can hear the record?
Brad Sterling, Pemberton. I had some of the same concerns about whether these comments are recorded. And now it turns out, and my question then was what happens after they're recorded? So now the process means when someone presents a concern, they have to follow it up in writing. Is that correct? If they want to get an answer. Because it sounded to me like there are a lot of very important concerns.
Let the executive director answer that question, please.
If people have questions, the best thing for you to do is reach out to staff, depending on your question. Bill Wolf has a question like he did, he should talk to me, he can talk to Stacy about it. You know, people coming up with public comment is sort of to express your opinion to the commissioners. But when you have specific questions and you want answers, you need to reach out to us directly and we will answer you. But everybody wants to give you.
Defeats the purpose of the public hearing.
Then, you know, I don't know that that's always true. Some of them are more general than others. So I'm trying to accommodate and tell you that the best way to get your specific answer is to come to us. If you have general questions that you think need to be answered, then the chairman's right. You need to make that known and we will respond publicly.
I have policy questions that should be answered by the commission, not the executive director.
Hold on.
Okay, so then is the procedure then to follow a request, with a written note to the commission
Yes,
and then that will be on the agenda at the next meeting?
we'll be.
An answer or discussion or whatever?
It'll be forwarded to us, we will answer at the next meeting, yes.
Okay, did everybody hear that? Okay. And the other, let's see, and Mr. Chairman, you're newly appointed, correct?
Yes. Well, no, I've been on the commission since 2011.
Okay, but you're the chairman now?
Yes, that's correct.
Can I ask you what do you see as your charge going forward? We have I think the point about the oath of office not containing a reference to the commission's credo is a very good one. The United States Constitution takes care of itself over there. The Jersey State Constitution takes care of itself. But what about the credo of the Pinelands Commission? My understanding is your charge is to protect the Pinelands for the future. We all know that the pipeline thing is not protecting the Pinelands. I just wanted to ask if you could, venture a response as to how do you see your charge?
Sir, I'm not gonna have a back and forth and a dissertation about what my charge is.
It's just a simple question. It's not a back and
We have a
forth.
CMP, which is our charge to uphold, that's it.
Okay, it doesn't have to be a back and forth.
Thank you.
I mean, do you understand the responsibilities of your position? I just wanted to know if you could verbalize how you see that.
Thank you.
Okay?
Very good. Smarts in the world.
Are there any other comments? Seeing none, close the public comment. Do we have any matters for closed session? No. All right. That's good. Do we have any comments from the?
I have a comment. The short course is coming up. It's the 27th short course the commission has been involved with, sponsored, and it's coming up March 12th. And I would just like to encourage the public and the commissioner, everyone to attend the short course. It's filled with very good information about the Pinelands, and as it has for 27 years, and we get a lot of good information at our meetings, but there's a super presentation at the short course. And I just want to encourage everyone to come out and support the short course. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a few of us that are involved in county government and local government, but this is for everyone. I'm not sure if anyone's aware or if you are aware what's coming down the track is there's some additional regulations that are being promulgated by DEP water quality on stormwater management issues. The MS4 regulations that were adopted quite some time ago. And in speaking to the water quality people at DEP, their hope is to get public comment. I think that's happening right now on all the changes, which are a lot of additional requirements that are going to be imposed on local, county, as well as state agencies. They're looking at adopting these regulations by the end of the year and having them in place at the beginning of 2017. And the only reason I'm mentioning that is that it's another state mandate, local government, county government pay. And when you ask that question, which I did several years ago, they said, well, we're not mandating, it's the federal government is, and so therefore, we're not the promulgator of these regulations. So it's going to come with a lot of expense to county, local governments, these amendments, but they're all good. I mean, I'm not suggesting that they're not. I think that the best management practices on stormwater management are healthy ones for the state. Probably all the state should take a lesson from what's happening, but I don't know if it's across the board or not. And last but not least, as of yesterday, the State Department of Transportation is still not in compliance with these regulations. It's hard to believe. And as a stormwater management coordinator for my town, Winslow Township, I'm subject to these inspections and in compliance with the rules and regulations, and if I don't comply with the rules and regulations, not me, but if our account does not, then they face penalties. And the DOT still continues to be, in Alcoholics Anonymous, they call it a work in progress. I'm a part county member, so I speak with some authority. So, you know, but I'm tired of hearing work in progress. And I'm sure that freeholders and mayors of towns, you know, get tired of hearing the same thing as well. So for what it's worth, it is coming down the pipe. Again, I think it's good stuff. What that's worth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that I thought your comment about implementing the CMP was right on target. The Commission has prepared and adopted a comprehensive management plan in accordance with our federal and state statutes that authorize the plan. It's been reviewed and it's been approved by the Department of Interior, and it's not easy always to make decisions in accordance with that plan that everybody agrees with. There is not just a preservation element in our mission statement. But I wanted to say that I hear meeting after meeting discouraging and disparaging comments about our staff and the staff's decision on certain applications. I'm sure the staff does its utmost to implement the plan the way they understand that the Commission adopted the plan and the way it was approved in accordance with statute. And I just wanted to put that on the record. I think they do a good job in a difficult situation. And that being said, I wanted to ask, since I no longer have a row of statute books behind my desk, I am not a big believer in package plants, though they've come a long way since they had literally used to be on trailers and could be moved from site to site. But there was a statute, I believe, called the Clean Water Enforcement Act, which has both civil and criminal penalties for flagrant, I think is the term, violations of discharge permit requirements. And could somebody that does have the green books look that up and tell me if I'm right or what the citation is? Because that statute did a lot to discourage applicants from relying on package plants. And if they did rely on, at least in Ocean County, if they did rely on package plants, they tended to be more attentive to meeting the permit requirements that were established by DEP through the Gypsy's permit. So I'd just like somebody to check on that.
Title 58 effluent limit enforcement.
I'll rely on the staff.
Okay. I'll look forward to their memo as well.
I don't need a memo, I just need the statute number.
Commissioner Avery, it's the Clean Water Act. It's the Water Pollution Control Act in New Jersey. It is Title 58, and the Clean Water Enforcement Act required penalties when permittees reported that there were violations. And I agree with you. I think it's come a long way in bringing us in the state, not only the sewage treatment plant, but others into compliance with the Clean Water Act. And that's what it was passed in 1990.
About that time frame. Thank you, Commissioner.
Now, all you erudite people have finished talking about the law. I want to just ask, I just want to ask a question. In the process of creating this exhibit, have we got a roadshow exhibit? I mean, the people that I talked to are 2 hours away. And are not going to get here.
Right, I understand. Over the past almost 10, almost 11 years that Joel's been here, he's gone out on the road to do these. I've done several myself. We do have a traveling exhibit.
I know what you've done, and you've all both been terrific. The question is whether if we have all this beautiful exhibit, we can transport some of it to something.
Well, most of it's going to be, if not all of it's going to be permanently installed into the building itself.
No, I understand that, but I just meant, what I was concerned about was, if we don't have the money to create such a thing, we should go out and find it.
Okay.
Because half the state, you know, has no way of really, and then, once you get that taste for them, they'll come. Agreed. But we need to do that, and so if you need budget money or something
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to thank the Commission for welcoming me here. I look forward to my tenure on the Commission. Serving in local government for 9 years and now county government. I was out of local government and I haven't heard the word co in quite a while. And unfortunately, nothing's changed. We live that fight in my community directly, and it's sad that it seems like it's just a continuous cycle, and no offense to the professionals, but the professionals continue to cycle around, and it's just something has to come into order, and I hope something does happen at a higher level, and it certainly brings some sense to it. Affordable housing is a need in the state, but it certainly has its place as well, so. One thing that in your little bio of me that wasn't in there is I am an avid camper and backpacker. I know we're all bridges. I camped there many times, Gotham Bridge, and the Pine Barren. So I love the Pine Barren family. Enjoy some time we spent there. My kids growing up, and look forward to being part of the process.
Chair, I just want to take the opportunity to once again thank Paul, Director, for excellent work on that environmental center. Really excited and looking forward to that. That's going to be a major advance of our mission and outreach to the public to help them appreciate the Pinelands even more. And I'm glad you stuck with it. I mean, we've gone through some difficult times where we wonder where are we going to find the money for this, and you've hung in there and put something together that's really wonderful. I'd also like on the motorized access plan discussion at the last P9 meeting, and I failed to mention in my committee report, I had asked, suggested that I, for one, and perhaps other commissioners would be interested in a tour of some of the damaged areas, and if staff could arrange it, perhaps some other commissioners would like to join me. I would very much be interested in seeing this. I think this is a terrible threat, and it's happening now. True, if we can see it, better understand it, and have a better realization of what perhaps we should do, must do, to make sure we're balancing the interests of the people who want the access, but also taking hold firmly in both hands our responsibility to protect resources that may be destroyed.
Here's the sign up sheet. I was going to say, just tell Jess I go out.
Thank you. And because he's still here and he stuck out to the bitter end, I want to once again thank former Commissioner Witt for all of his service to the public, not just here at the Pinelands. He's got an incredible record of service in his community, National Park, and to a number of nonprofit organizations. He's a remarkable guy who's worth looking into. Frank, thank you very much for while I was here. And yes, Commissioner Chillen, welcome you. Glad to see you here. Looking forward to working with you. And Mr. Chairman, congratulations on a great job on your first Thank you.
Any other comments? I had two. We have a new commissioner. We're also, it looks like we're wrapping up with the MOA committee. So we are going to look to shuffle around some of the committees, make sure we've got everybody spoken for adequately on all the different committees out there. We have already made changes to the audit committee. Moving forward, I will be taking the chairman's spot, obviously, on that committee. And Commissioner Avery has volunteered to take Commissioner Witt's spot. Commissioner Avery will be chairing that committee moving forward. So no date on the next meeting, but wanted to let you know that change has been made. And then I've reached out to all the commissioners privately. I didn't get a chance to speak to everybody, but I will be reaching out again just to go over committee assignments moving forward. That being said, motion to adjourn. Move. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting.